Part 41. Participating in a love show, this little guy is too down to earth. Author, Buletin Shi Swan Shi Shui Xian. Chapter 407. Ah. What was a little surprising was that when Gu Huiyan heard Shang Zuoyan's words, he couldn't walk. His expression was also a bit strange, as if he was a little at a loss, and also seemed to be a little incoherent. What's wrong? Shang Zuoyan looked over with a pair of big watery eyes in a strange way. After seeing Gu Huiyan's appearance, she couldn't help but feel a little funny and asked. Didn't you just hold down my hand to train me? What? Are you scared now? Aren't you here for your daughter? Why, you don't even dare to see her. Gu Huiyan was speechless for a moment. It's not that I'm scared, it's mainly that I'm not mentally prepared. Along the way, all he could think about was Shang Zuoyan, and she didn't tell him about such big things. Most of his anger was focused on Shang Zuoyan, so much so that he didn't even think about meeting her. About my daughter. To be honest, he thought Shang Zuoyan would deny it and said it was a lie. How could he have a daughter? He really didn't expect that she would admit it, and admit it so quickly and simply. Pook. Shang Zuoyan couldn't help but laugh out loud. She took out her mobile phone from her pocket and called her assistant. She said in proficient Korean that she was not feeling well today and had no choice but to give up work, while walking back and forth. Gu Huiyan could only keep up in a daze, but to be honest, he was not mentally prepared yet. *U0026% Yuan #at. On the way, Shang Zuoyan was communicating with her assistant, all in Korean, and Gu Huiyan couldn't understand a word. They basically chatted all the way before hanging up the phone when they got home. Call. After hanging up the phone, Shang Zuoyan rolled her eyes and couldn't help but resentfully told Gu Huiyan. I didn't even know to say hello in advance when I came, which caused me to turn down several important tasks. I will definitely be made things difficult for me later. Gu Huiyan still didn't speak, but looked at Shang Zuoyan with some confusion. Look at you. Shang Zuoyan couldn't stand it anymore, so she took a few steps forward and helped Gu Huiyan tidy up his clothes that were a little messy from running around. Then she knelt down and patted the dirt on his pants from his fall. Then he tied the scarf for him, and finally stood on tiptoes, stretched out his jade hands, and helped Gu Huiyan tidy up his hair. While sorting it out, I muttered. How can you look like a father like this and scare your daughter? At this time, Shang Zuoyan was a little gentle. When she was helping Gu Huiyan tidy up her clothes, the body fragrance penetrated into Gu Huiyan's nose all-pervasively. Female celebrities always smell good, and Shang Zuoyan's thick black hair was casual. It is loosely draped, a little less wild than before, and a lot more maternal tenderness. Although that doll-like pretty face always looks like that of a child who has not grown up, it has some strength that it did not have before. It is also a certain strong presence that makes people inevitably feel pity. At this moment, Gu Huiyan suddenly felt a little sad. Before Shang Zuoyan could react, he opened his arms and hugged her. Maybe he only thought about Shang Zuoyan and didn't tell him. He was very angry. When they met, he was so angry that he patronized and questioned him. On the way, he didn't even think about how Shang Zuoyan had been living in the past few years. I was alone in a foreign country and gave birth to a child, who he raised until he was 6 years old. This is a living child, not a cat or a dog. Not to mention how difficult it is to conceive and give birth to a child in 10 months. Raising and caring for these is the big deal. Shang Zuoyan pursed her lips slightly. At this moment, she was not sad, nor was she panicked when she was discovered. Instead, she felt a feeling of relief. In fact, she always knew that Gu Huiyan would discover this matter sooner or later. It was just a matter of time, and before that day came, she would always think about what that day would be like. When that moment really comes, she will relax. It has come, so there is nothing to be afraid of. Let's go. She was already looking for the key in her bag to open the door, but Gu Huiyan grabbed her and asked. I didn't bring anything. Is that appropriate? What else do you want to bring? Shang Zuoyan was very happy and thought to herself, you don't want to bring some milk powder or something, do you? It would be nice if you came. She shook her head, opened the door and went in without saying anything else. Why are you back? As soon as he entered, there was a sound of footsteps at the door, and a woman wearing a warm shirt, Shang Zuoyan's aunt, walked out of it. When I saw Shang Zuoyan, I was still wondering why she came back. When I saw Gu Huiyan. Well, not surprising anymore. But surprise is still surprise. This is my aunt. Shang Zuoyan introduced Gu Huiyan to her aunt. Gu Huiyan nodded and said hello, but his attention was not on his aunt at all. Shang Zuoyan also understood him. She took off her scarf and helped him find slippers, then led him into the house. The room was very warm, completely different from the outside. She only wore a thin shirt inside. It was very early and the child probably hadn't woken up yet, so Shang Zuoyan took Gu Huiyan upstairs. She sleeps with her aunt. I've been coming back very late recently, and I'm not sure. She also spends very little time sleeping with me. She stayed with her grandma when she was a child. Last year, her grandma felt unwell and went back, so she asked her aunt to come over. But every time I go out, she thinks about her mother. Shang Zuoyan went upstairs while talking to Gu Huiyan. Although her words sounded a little sad, there was also a lot of sweetness. She seemed to enjoy the feeling of having a child. Without saying a word, Gu Huiyan followed her upstairs and turned a corner to a room with good lighting. It is early in the morning, and the sunlight has not yet penetrated into the room. Even though the curtains have been opened, the room still does not look very bright. It is worth mentioning that the decoration in the room is quite warm, pink, and tender, with various toys and dolls, including Barbie dolls. It looks like the room of the daughter of the head of the house. The bed quilt in the room is not pink, it is probably used by my aunt, and it is a bit plain. It is worth mentioning that you can see a small body huddled under the quilt, resting with its eyes closed. Yan Yan. Shang Zuoyan leaned over, not caring whether her hands were cold or not, let alone whether there was cold air on her body. She stretched out her beautiful hands to pinch her daughter's warm face wrapped in the quilt. Hey you. Auntie secretly gritted her teeth on bien. To be honest, if Gu Huiyan hadn't been on bien, she would have stopped it. Shang Zuoyan has always been like a child. When she was a child, she liked to pinch her daughter's face and often made her cry. She often told Shang Zuoyan not to treat children as toys. Unfortunately, Shang Zuoyan never listened. Every time she saw her, still can't help but want to touch it a few times. You said, this early in the morning, when someone else's child is sleeping soundly, you touch someone else's cold hand, are you being ridiculous? Even Gu Huiyan couldn't help but frown. Well. The little girl drowsily rubbed her eyes and opened them. When she saw it was her mother, a hint of disgust immediately appeared on her confused face. She waved her hands and said, Mom, haven't you gone to work yet? The little girl's voice is soft, like a grandma's. It makes people's hearts melt when they hear it. The outline of Gu Huiyan's facial features is actually very similar to that of Shang Zuoyan. She is white and tender, her eyes are very big, and her face is plump, almost like a porcelain doll. There is a lot of hair, black and thick, maybe because I haven't woken up in the morning, it is a bit messy, but it also covers my forehead a lot. This is simply a replica of Shang Zuoyan, the proper doll has not escaped. If there is any resemblance to Gu Huiyan, it seems that his facial features look very similar to Gu Huiyan's. I'm not going today. How about I stay with you at home today? Shang Zuoyan leaned forward and kissed her daughter's cheek. The chubby little girl's face was smooth and tender. It was no wonder that she liked to pinch it so much. It is worth mentioning that after hearing Shang Zuoyan's words, Gu Xian first made a subconscious expression of joy, then pouted her mouth, frowned, shook her head, and said, "I think you'd better go to work." Puff. Gu Huiyan almost couldn't stand still on the edge. Shang Zuoyan. Aim. Sometimes, she couldn't help but think that this was Gu Huiyan's daughter, and she was angry at herself for always being talented in this area. Perhaps because of Gu Huiyan's voice, Gu Xian saw Gu Huiyan, who was very unfamiliar to her, for the first time. Some male protagonists in fantasy novels will have that kind of thing when they see their own flesh and blood, the connection between blood and so on. This thing is too unrealistic and unrealistic. Although Gu Huiyan feels that Gu Xian is very kind, the little girl doesn't know Gu Huiyan at all. She looks at the old stranger and asks, "Mom, who is this uncle?" When he heard the name uncle, Gu Huiyan felt a bit petrified on the spot. His expression froze and the corners of his mouth twitched a few times. Seeing this scene, Shang Zuoyan was immediately amused and giggled, saying, "Yan Yan, this is not uncle, this is..." At this point, she paused, hesitated for a moment, and then said softly, "It's Dad. Dad." Gu Xian climbed up and sat up after hearing this title, her big watery eyes like Shang Zuoyan's looked at Gu Huiyan, who had arrived in a hurry and was even a little slovenly. Being stared at like this, Gu Huiyan felt for a moment that his heart had been melted away. There is no man who is not a daughter's slave. Gu Xian looks too much like Shang Zuoyan and is so cute. A stinky straight man like Gu Huiyan will be manipulated to death by his daughter at the first sight. Gu Huiyan stayed in Seoul for many days. He must be farting if he said he didn't miss work. But at this time, he didn't care about working or not. The fact that he had a 6-year-old daughter really had a great impact on him. Yes, he needs time to calm down. In the past few days, Shang Zuoyan also gave up most of her work and chose to stay with them at home. Gu Huiyan didn't dare to get close to her daughter when she met Gu Xian on the first day. But the next day she was much better and could hold her. On the third day, I bought candies for my daughter, and she kissed him on the face to make him proud. On the fourth day, the father and daughter were kissing like nothing else. It seemed that Shang Zuoyan was like an outsider. She was unwilling to hug her daughter. She disliked her very much and made her very angry. She didn't like to talk to her. This annoying father and daughter, both Gu Xian and Gu Xian, are glaring at each other. She was obviously born in 10 months of pregnancy, but they raised her for 6 years without even seeing Huiyan for a few days. Is this ridiculous? Children are not sensible after all, and occasionally ask Gu Huiyan why he hasn't seen her before. Gu Huiyan can't always say that he doesn't know, so he just says that he is busy with work, and he is finally done with it, and he can see her more often in the future. Yes, often. Gu Huiyan said it was easy, but in fact it was not that simple. He didn't even know how to tell Pei Jingshu. Shang Zuoyan must have thought of this, but she didn't ask Gu Huiyan at all. Of course, it can be said that she didn't want to care about it. Anyway, it was Gu Huiyan's business. Who asked him to insist on coming to recognize his daughter? What would happen if he didn't come to recognize his daughter? No, you have to take responsibility if you admit it. After staying in Seoul for more than 10 days, Gu Huiyan finally planned to return to China. He would definitely not hide it from Pei Jingshu. If things like MD were hidden and exposed in the future, it would be a big problem. It's better to confess everything early. To be honest, when he returned, Gu Huiyan was prepared for Pei Jingshu to part ways with him, and even prepared to face the storm. After hearing the complete story, Pei Jingshu was indeed sad for a while. She hadn't seen Gu Huiyan for a long time. Gu Huiyan went to find her shamelessly, but she just ignored it. The difference between this time and the previous breakup is that Pei Jingshu didn't post any updates and didn't let any outsiders see it. After all, they are now married, and the consequences of the last time were too serious. Having learned from past mistakes, I won't mess around anymore. They can't afford that kind of consequences. But it's impossible for her to forgive Gu Huiyan easily. She doesn't even intend to forgive Gu Huiyan. She has already hired a lawyer to draft a divorce agreement in the past few days. This time is different from last time. This time the children are out, okay. Even if it was something before marriage, Gu Huiyan didn't know about it beforehand, but he and Shang Zuoyan had a daughter. Can this be tolerated? If she could bear it, she would no longer be Pei Jingshu. How gentle she is usually, but how extreme she is when things like this happen. She always has such a very strong temper, and Father Pei was right about this. When things got to this point, Gu Huiyan also had a headache. He originally thought there was nothing he could do, but who knew that at the end of the month, he suddenly received news that Pei Jingshu was pregnant. What the hell? When Gu Huiyan heard this, he jumped almost 3 meters high. He thought to himself, how could this incredible wealth be squandered on labor and capital like this? Pei Jingshu's attitude is not very extreme. After all, Gu Huiyan didn't know about this matter beforehand. It all happened last time. Plus, she happens to be pregnant, so things can easily turn around. So Gu Huiyan simply turned down all his work for the next year and focused on Pei Jingshu every day. Although Pei Jingshu ignored him at all, was angry with him, and even refused to let him in. One day it snowed and made him stay outside in the car all night, but it took a long time. Icebergs also melt. She also thought about aborting this child, but she couldn't bear it, so she had to tell Gu Huiyan firmly that this child has nothing to do with you. Both parents also made adjustments. Speaking of both parents, Pei's father and Pei's mother would definitely not accept it at first. Pei's father was better, but Pei's mother almost handed the divorce agreement to Gu Huiyan in person. But who made Gu Huiyan have such a sincere attitude? Pei's father and mother also liked him very much in the past few years. During Pei Jingshu's pregnancy, he hung around the house every day, and even rented a house nearby just to take care of Pei Jingshu. Pei's father and Pei's mother can't bear it. Slowly, I accepted it. In comparison, Gu Huiyan's mother was the last to accept. The first time she got the news, Gu's mother committed suicide herself. The first time she found Gu Huiyan, she slapped him. She trained him for several days, but she couldn't get over it. Pei's father and Pei's mother looked at him at that time. Gu Huiyan couldn't bear the beating anymore and went to try to persuade him. Gu Huiyan's mother only recognized Pei Jingshu, and from now on she would only recognize the children born between them. Gu Huiyan only focused on screaming. The mother and son acted for several days, and they really acted clearly to Father Pei and Mother Pei. This kid Guzun is also smart. When his mother was tired from beating him, he would bring tea and water from the side. Every mouthful was my brother's fault. Let's do it again and again. The effect of this bitter flesh trick is really good. Later, when Gu Huiyan's wound was extracted, Pei Jingshu, who had ignored Gu Huiyan for several months and had a big belly, couldn't bear to look at it anymore, so she gave him a baby late at night. The medicine is coming. Although I still feel bad, it can be considered a good start. She said it was acting, but Gu Ma didn't really act. Even in private, she didn't intend to recognize Shang Zuoyan and Gu Xiyan. However, these elders always had tough words. Gu Huiyan sent her a few in Seoul. I recorded the video of Gu Xiyan when I was there. The good old lady almost flew away after watching it. She secretly hinted that she would see if she could call the child back during the Chinese New Year. Gu Huiyan said, "Don't you only recognize Pei Jingshu?" Gu's mother said that she is our child after all. Gu Huiyan was so angry. But in the end, this matter can be considered settled. Of course, this is just what Gu Huiyan thinks has been solved. Pei Jingshu's child was born in October and is a boy. After the child was born, she named her Pei Li, a polite gift, when registering the child. Yes, the child has her last name. Pei Li, it means apologizing. His father has been apologizing since his mother was pregnant. Let's call him Pei Li. This made Gu Huiyan feel very sad for a while. Can his son's name be so casual? Speaking of which, Gu Xiyan's name is actually a bit hasty. It is taken from the names of Gu Huiyan and Shang Zuoyan. As the name suggests, there is no need to explain it, but it sounds good after all, and it has the same surname as Gu Huiyan. Although Pei Jingshu never mentioned divorcing Gu Huiyan, they probably would not divorce, but it would be impossible for her to be the same as before in a short period of time. After the child was born, Pei Jingshu also followed Shang Zuoyan's example and took the child abroad. However, she took the child abroad not to avoid Gu Huiyan, but to take revenge on Gu Huiyan. Just let him not enjoy the feeling of having his children around him. Gu Huiyan went to look for her, but she refused to let him see her. This situation lasted until Pei Li was nearly 5 years old. During this period, Gu Huiyan also wanted to have a good talk with Pei Jingshu, but she had no intention of doing so. Even her parents were helpless and no one could persuade her. Father Pei occasionally expresses sympathy because he and Gu Huiyan are in the same boat, but in the end he can only count on Gu Huiyan for this matter. Speaking of which, Gu Huiyan has been really busy in the past few years. Pei Jingshu took Pei Li back and forth in countries such as Australia and Singapore, while Shang Zuoyan took Gu Xiyan in Seoul. He also had domestic work. It's almost like running on 3 sides. Oh, not just the 3 sides, but also the Yunnan side. Sister Xylin gave Gu Huiyan a headache for a while. Maybe it was because of the quarrel between Gu Huiyan and herself. Xylin had hardly contacted Gu Huiyan for more than a year. Gu Huiyan was too busy dealing with Pei Jingshu's affairs at that time and didn't remember it until Pei Li was born. I came to visit Sister Xylin, but when I called and sent a message, I realized that I had been blocked by Xylin. Xylin was the only woman who would block Gu Huiyan after a quarrel. Gu Huiyan and Pei Jingshu had such a fierce quarrel at the beginning, but Pei Jingshu never blocked him. Shang Zuoyan went abroad for 3 years and never blocked him. Only Xylin, after quarreling once, became angry. This is normal. How much do Shang Zuoyan and Pei Jingshu want? How much does she want? How much did Gu Huiyan give to Shang Zuoyan and Pei Jingshu, and how much did he give to her? She didn't want anything, she didn't ask for anything, she was all thinking about Gu Huiyan, and Gu Huiyan still quarreled with her? Can you not be sad? Before Gu Huiyan came to her, she even wanted to never meet Gu Huiyan again. Gu Huiyan had no choice but to apologize. To be honest, his anger had subsided by then, and he wouldn't really be angry with Xylin for long. He could just give up and give up. When they met Xylin, like Pei Jingshu, didn't even look at him and treated him like nothing. Gu Huiyan had no choice but to torment Xylin for a few days, and even brought out the words she said at the beginning, "My sister will not leave no matter who leaves." Only then did she say it to Xylin, which she couldn't bear to say. Anyway, although he may have been traveling around in the past few years, Gu Huiyan's life has been quite fulfilling. One month, at the beginning of the month I went to Australia to find Pei Jingshu to meet the child. In the middle of the month I went to Shaur to find Shang Zuoyan to accompany Gu Xiyan, and at the end of the month I went to Yunnan to stay with Xylin for a while. Now he is making a lot of money just from song copyright fees. He also has his own company and is gradually transforming into behind-the-scenes capital. Otherwise, he would really not be able to live like this. Of course, thanks to Xylin not fighting or grabbing, and helping him solve problems, he still has no children, otherwise Gu Huiyan would really be dead. But how to put it? Gu Huiyan always owed Xylin. If she wanted something in the future, it felt like Gu Huiyan would never be able to refuse her. Never mind. Let's talk about what happens next. There is wine today and you will be drunk today. Who cares if there is frost on the tiles tomorrow? From now on, it will get better sooner or later. Everyone will have good luck. Well, just sauce. The end is not a new beginning. Complete the book. Participating in a love show, this little guy is too down to earth. Author, Buletin Shi Swan Shi Shui Xian. Chapter 408. Thank you all, there are no more chapters of 400. After all, I still haven't written 400 chapters, haha. There are many problems with this book, and there is nothing I can do about it. It is the first time I write a book at the starting point. If there are pitfalls at the starting point, if I don't step through them myself, how will I know where I should step on them? Well, the result is that my book almost trampled all the pitfalls at the starting point. The tomb jumping area jumps sideways repeatedly, ha ha ha. Well, this book really started high but then started low. Some friends also said that it started but ended at the end, and there were many oolong incidents in the middle. It felt like the collapse was very complete. My mentality was also not good in the middle. I thought about it many times. Haha, just kidding, I said it too. What the hell kind of eunuch does a dignified 7-foot man become? It was already terrible. If I didn't finish it, my brothers would really poke me in the back. Even if there were only a dozen or 20 people reading it, I still had to finish it for them. Let's talk about the problem. I have analyzed the reason for the problem. It is probably because I wrote very little in the past and it was in the later stages. Some friends also said that I was okay in the early stage of writing 700-800,000 words, but then something went wrong. There's nothing I can do about it. In the past, I might just write less than 1,000,000 words and no one would read it, no one would follow me, and no one would give me feedback. I just wrote whatever I wanted, which led to me not knowing it. Is it right for me to write like that? Is my thinking correct? The price for going your own way is an avalanche. I feel like I will feel better after writing this book. I understand the rights and wrongs of the plot, and know which direction to go in. The same problem will never appear for me a second time, so these problems will not appear in the next book. It's a crime, I said. It may also be a slap in the face. After all, this book has slapped me in the face too many times, ha ha ha. Of course, there is no lack of passion. As for me, I can be considered a passionate author. For me, creative passion is quite important. I may lose it in the later stage, but I really haven't convinced anyone in the early stage. In the later stage, the results will not be good, and the passion and enthusiasm will obviously be lost, which will lead to a vicious cycle, getting worse and worse. This is my problem and has nothing to do with anyone else. I should also reflect on how to maintain my enthusiasm for my works. This is what I need to learn. There is also an update, and I don't know why I feel that my memory has deteriorated seriously in the past 2 years. In the past, it was not a problem for Wang Geng to follow the plot, but now Wang Geng actually has a headache. Sometimes it feels like it is really just to make up the word count, which is quite uncomfortable. Therefore, if the next version is released, the update may have to be slowed down, focusing on quality rather than quantity. Anyway, it's over. It's over. In any case, Gu Huiyan's story comes to an end here. Maybe it's a little rushed, and I might add some extras later, but in short, now, it's over. There is actually a lot I want to say at this moment, but in the final analysis, I still want to talk about Shang Xuoyan. Shang Xuoyan, a woman who almost ruined Gu Huiyan and this book. She is willful, annoying and lovable, like an addictive poison. It is always easy to write about her. She is vivid, and you know what she should be without you having to think about it. What expression is what reaction? No matter how many people criticize her, at least she is very real. She is definitely the type that many boys will like. She is lively, cute, and active. When she likes you, she only has love in her eyes and just wants to be with you. I said not to write about her bringing the baby back home, and many people scolded me for being a slap in the face. But in fact, she just brought the baby back and did not return. Moreover, what disgusted the brothers was only the Shura field and not the bringing the baby back. I omitted what should be omitted. The problem is not big, I don't break my promise, this wave is also a forced respect, ha ha ha. In short, because of her willfulness, she basically ruined most of everything in and out of the book, and I was forced to finish the book in the dead of winter. I chose to bear the coldness of winter alone, and then think about what to do. Only by kneeling and licking can I retain some people who will read my next book. Haha, just kidding. I am never afraid that no one will read my books. Before I started this book and before I came to Kidian, my colleagues all said that Kidian was difficult, and it was as difficult as hell. But didn't I still order thousands of books? Along the way, there have been controversies and scandals everywhere. In the new book issue, there was an LV4 author who had written 5 or 6 books and came to the book review section to make a fuss, ha ha ha. I wonder how that brother would feel if he knew I was at LV5 in 1 month. Is he sad or jealous? Before the labor and management came to the starting point, they crushed dozens of them, what the hell? No one can deny the achievements of this book. We are all true and have not falsified a single point. For this, I am grateful to you and feel somewhat proud. A wolf travels 1,000 miles to eat meat, and a dog travels 1,000 miles to eat shit. Those who know how to write, those who can write, will have food wherever they go, and there will be support no matter how they write. As for me, I hope that what I can retain everyone is not feelings, but the quality of the book is why I didn't keep it when people left it later. If no one comes to read the next book because of me, it doesn't matter. As you said, reading books and pictures makes you happy. If it makes you unhappy, you can leave at any time. The fault is all mine. I admit it and I accept it. This is what I should do. Today, I still can't guarantee that the next book will be better than this one, but at least there will definitely be progress. And I also need to take advantage of the end of the year to find some time to settle down and read more books. I haven't read a book for a long time. If I don't read it again, I really won't be able to write. Ha ha ha. Okay, I guess my brothers won't like it either. Anyway, the next one will be released after the Chinese New Year. It will still be explosive and it will still catch your attention from the first chapter. Finally, I would like to say that this book is not fictional, but adapted from a true story in a parallel world. This is the kind of life Gu Huiyan and the others live in the parallel world, that's it. Okay guys. The road to the rivers and lakes is far away, so leave it alone. The mountains are high and the rivers are far away, we see you later. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Participating in a love show, this little guy is too down to earth. Author, Buletin Shi Swan Shi Shui Xian. Chapter 409. No, brother, I'm really not a suspicious person. Listen to me, my translator is broken and my phone is out of battery. Just knock on the door of that house and they will explain it to me. Really? Can you just let me go over and knock on the door? Knock on the door. Zhao, I'm convinced. Why can't you explain clearly? No, I'm a star. Give me your mobile phone and I can search the internet for you. Some people recognized me on the way in just now. Australia. Near the house where Pei Jingshu lives? Gu Huiyan was regarded as an outsider by the community security personnel and was stopped on the road not far from the house. In fact, this is not the first time that Gu Huiyan has been stopped by security personnel. It seems that every time he comes to see Pei Jingshu and her children, he is driven away, even if he has said hello in advance. Gu Huiyan knew very well that Pei Jingshu might have deliberately caused trouble. Even though 5 or 6 years had passed, her anger was still like an unquenchable spark that was blown away by the wind. The climate in Australia is pleasant. Even in the dead of winter, the temperature here is always in the teens and 20s. With the windows open at home and sitting on the second floor, most of the activity outside is covered by sitting in the room drinking afternoon tea. Pei Jingshu and Pei Ya listened. He's in quite a miserable condition. Why don't you go over and say a few words to him? Pei Ya stood on the second floor terrace and looked out for a few times. When she returned to the room, she said this to the woman in a simple white dress sitting on the lounge chair. The woman's figure is slender but curvy. The slim-fitting skirt just highlights her beautiful figure. What is worth mentioning is the delicate face that is very characteristic of an Oriental beauty. The face exposed in the air, no matter what, looking at it from time to time, it is still indescribably beautiful, as if the god of beauty has descended. Her beautiful black hair was casually tied up with a hairpin at the back of her head. The high top of her head made the whole hairstyle look very three-dimensional and decent, and a gentle and elegant temperament just emanated out of her casually. Pei Jingshu. It's been several years since the baby was born, but no one has ever admired this face. Even though she has faded out of the entertainment industry in recent years, her beautiful pictures and facial expressions are still circulated in domestic entertainment. Listening to the movement outside the window, Pei Jingshu's delicate and pretty face showed a look of anger, her red lips opened lightly, and she faintly uttered one word. Should. Pei Ya. Aiming. Well. Pei Ya held her forehead silently and sighed helplessly. In fact, she just said that Gu Huiyan was miserable. It was not only reflected in the fact that he had traveled thousands of miles to see Pei Jingshu and the child but was turned away, but also reflected in something happened recently. Paper could not contain the fire. Gu Huiyan and Pei Jingshu separated in 2 places soon after their marriage. Naturally, it led to speculation. Entertainment reporters and paparazzi who had good things to do followed this line and dug deeper. As a result, they accidentally dug up Shang Zuoyan and the matter of Gu Huiyan's daughter Gu Xiyan. Then, there was an exposure that caused a major earthquake in domestic entertainment. The collapse of the top king Gu Huiyan's house had an impact like a landslide and a tsunami. Because the incident was so explosive, there were endless voices condemning Gu Huiyan from the moral high ground. In those few months, Gu Huiyan was even more shouting and beating than when he broke up with Pei Jingshu. Not to mention beef noodles, he didn't even dare to go out and have a sip of beef soup. Gu Huiyan was responsible this time. He did not treat him coldly like before. Instead, he held a press conference, admitted all his mistakes, and announced in public, retiring from the entertainment industry indefinitely. At the beginning, public opinion was in favor, and the vast majority of people fell into disgrace. Later, when everyone realized that Gu Huiyan would never appear in the public eye again, never hold a concert again, and never release new works again, inexplicably, my heart started to feel blocked again. But who told him that this was all Gu Huiyan's own doing? Gu Huiyan also chose to bear it all by himself, trying not to affect Pei Jingshu and Shang Zuoyan in the slightest, which was also an explanation to them. Listening to Pei Ya's words, Pei Jingshu's watery eyes seemed to be filled with emotions. She dragged her cheeks with her delicate hands, gently placed the coffee in her hand on the coaster on the table, opened her mouth, and wanted to drink it. He stopped talking. Can't you be accommodating? At this moment, the sound of Gu Huiyan and the security personnel struggling could still be heard outside. Pei Jingshu silently held her forehead, helplessly pushed her hair back from her temples, and gently shook her head. Pei Ya couldn't help but say, "You said this kid, at least bring a translator. His foreign language is not good, his mobile phone is out of battery, and the translator is broken. Can others understand what he says? Gu Tianwang has always been so down to earth from the time he debuted until he was forced to withdraw from the entertainment industry indefinitely. He is the only foreign star who speaks Chinese and even gestures. Pei Ya looked out the window and said, I guess a few people will have to come and help him out later. The phone is out of battery and the translator is broken. He can't even stay in the hotel, right? At this point, she glanced at Pei Jingshu and said something similar. It seems that he will be sleeping on the street tonight. Pei Jingshu. Aim. She heard the hint in her sister's words clearly. Even so, there was always a hint of weakness in her eyes when she looked outside. Being soft-hearted has always been a habit she can't give up. I'm convinced, I really am. Gu Huiyan couldn't explain it to the security personnel and was very angry. Seeing that everyone in the house had the lights on but no one spoke for him, he couldn't help but grit his teeth. Okay, just watch me being made trouble for here, right? A lot of things have happened in the country recently, and Gu Huiyan himself was unhappy, so he simply acted like a rogue and stood at the door shouting. Pei Jingshu. 5 years, 5 years. Singapore, Australia, Hawaii, Matai, Ruishi, dozens of countries in the past 5 years, you are walking around like a dog, and you change places for me every month. My son has grown so big. I have never seen his grandma once. Every year when I go home during the Chinese New Year, my mother scolds me until half the night. Yes. I was wrong, I did something wrong, but haven't I forgiven you? Don't say it's an ice cube, it's just a stone, covering my chest, Gu Huiyan. It should have melted in 5 years, right? What's wrong? Do you still want to walk me for the rest of your life? In the past few years, Gu Huiyan's life has been nothing close to good. He is either working or on the way abroad every day. At first, he always felt that he was sorry and just tired when he was tired. As time goes by, I feel unjust. I'm already angry, and I usually have no reason to express it, but today I really can't hold it in any longer. All the troubles in the country are not over yet, and everything goes wrong again today. It is always the straw that breaks the camel's back. Gu Huiyan has had enough of this kind of life. Seriously, if you really don't want to see me. Tomorrow I will find a lawyer to draft a divorce agreement. I will satisfy you. When Gu Huiyan stood up in front of Pei Jingshu, which was rare, he pinched his waist and cursed. If these fans of Pei Ban takes care of CP saw this scene, they would definitely laugh out loud. What he said must be angry. If you really asked him to draft a divorce agreement, you wouldn't do it even if you beat him to death. He did this just to stimulate Pei Jingshu. Hey sir. Of course, the security personnel here would definitely not allow him to continue cursing and pulling him down. Okay. And just when Gu Huiyan was about to be forcibly evicted by the security brother, the door to the room was pushed open, and Pei Jingshu, wrapped in a grey shawl, walked out of the room unhurriedly. The look in her eyes he was slightly sharp, and when he glared at Gu Huiyan, he felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. Go and draft an agreement, I'll wait for you. Pei Jingshu leaned against the door, tilting her head slightly and looking at Gu Huiyan. Probably because this woman was so pretty, the moment she opened the door and came out, even the security guard who was holding Gu Huiyan was stunned for a moment. A very funny scene is that Gu Huiyan, who was holding his waist and yelling at the street just now, who was still angry just now, suddenly changed his face, and that face was full of a mean smile. Hey hey hey. He said in broken English, we know each other to the security guy who was pulling him, then quickly ran to Pei Jingshu with his suitcase, raised his hand and put it on Pei Jingshu's shoulder, as if to give Pei Jingshu a shoulder squeeze. The appearance said. Do you think my acting skills have improved? Pei Jingshu rolled her eyes at him, silently held her forehead, and shook her head helplessly. In order to see her now, Gu Huiyan really did everything he could, saying anything, and now he used all the provocation techniques. Shameless and skinless. Raising her beautiful hand to tuck the messy hair behind her ears, she glared at Gu Huiyan, walked over and explained a few words to the security guard, and then acquiesced to Gu Huiyan's entry into the house. Dad. Pei Li has already entered elementary school this year, and for this reason, Pei Jingshu did not run around this year. Although he saw Gu Huiyan only a few times, their father-son relationship was very good. Pei Li always looked forward to his father coming to see him next time, but he didn't dare to say such things in front of his mother, because she would react the next time she heard similar words. For a time, he was exempted from dinner that day. Having said that, there is one thing that Pei Li dislikes about his father, that is, every time he comes here, his father always coaxes him to go to bed early. It was the same tonight. Not long after dinner, he helped him take a bath and stuffed him into the room. As a child, I don't know much, so I thought my father really wanted him to have a good rest and go to bed early and get up early. In fact, after coaxing his father to sleep, he secretly went to his mother's room. Well, Pei Jingshu in the room was so kissed that she couldn't breathe. She blushed and punched Gu Huiyan's chest, gritting her teeth and saying, "You're becoming more and more unreasonable, aren't you? Do you really think I forgive you? Okay, now you dare to touch her room casually in the middle of the night? Then don't leave the door open for me." Gu Huiyan couldn't help rolling his eyes. Sometimes Pei Jingshu was too honest. She could have locked the door to prevent Gu Huiyan, but she never did. I just. Pei Jingshu avoided her eyes and said with a blush. It's just convenient to see if Pei Li Gai is covered with quilt at night, well. No matter how hard she talks or explains, Gu Huiyan will not be happy if they take less advantage as they are a legal couple. Come home with me to celebrate the new year. After turning off the lights, the two of them were breathing unevenly in the dim room, but Gu Huiyan suddenly brought up such a topic. He lowered his head and said quietly, "Our affairs have been exposed. I probably won't have any job in the future, and I probably won't be performing anymore. In the past 5 years, I have done everything I should do, and I have paid the price. Can you just let my mother see her grandson?" Gu Huiyan's tone when he said these words was a little heavy. It may be that his heroines were too overtly colorful, which caused many people to ignore the importance of his career to him. To put it simply, to put it lightly, I will withdraw from the entertainment industry indefinitely. But how could it really be that easy to do? Being a star and a singer has also been his dream since childhood. He will never be able to do this again and will never get any cheers from fans. Do you think Gu Huiyan is really relaxed? What greeted Gu Huiyan was Pei Jingshu's silence. Sitting on Gu Huiyan's lap, she stared at her husband Gu Huiyan, who had always been extremely confident and could arouse cheers from the audience as soon as he appeared on the stage. She thought that he would probably only be able to work behind the scenes in the future. A strong feeling of distress and sadness suddenly came to my heart. Actually, what happened back then is already in the past for her. It's not about being relieved or anything, it's just like what she sang in the lyrics of her original song Forgive. After all, you are the one I love, what can I blame you for? She was always bullied by Gu Huiyan like this, even if she did nothing wrong every time, even if he felt sorry for her every time, she still had to forgive him. In the dark room, Gu Huiyan could not see anything clearly, but he seemed to be able to hear Pei Jingshu's crying. A few tears fell from her eyes, crystal clear, and fell onto Gu Huiyan's body, which was clear to the touch. Gu Huiyan was about to say something, but Pei Jingshu didn't wait. She just silently stretched out her bony arms around Gu Huiyan's neck and buried her head on his shoulder. Said quietly, "Good. Participating in a love show, this little guy is too down to earth." Author, Bulletin Shi Xuan Shi Shui Xian. Chapter 410. Shang's Huiyan, I'm warning you, If you yell a few Korean words at me and scold me for nothing, I will really fall out with you, bullying me for not knowing Korean, right? Who scolded you? I don't understand Korean, but I know what aksi means. Besides, you don't need to listen to what you said specifically with that grinning look on your face. On the streets of Seoul, Shang Zhuoyan, who was wrapped up tightly, held Gu Huiyan's arm. The two of them had just walked to the entrance of a facial mask shop. Although she is no longer a girl, Shang Zhuoyan seems to never lose her childishness. In addition, she wears colorful clothes every day. As a female star, she maintains her figure and condition very well, so she has a girly look. This thing is always by her side. Of course, Gu Huiyan is not bad either. Although he has quit the entertainment industry that is like a big dive at since last year, the foundation Gu Tianwang has accumulated over the years is enough for him to have enough food and clothing. This year he started to work behind the scenes and is doing well. Well, when a person's career is good, his condition will never be too bad. Such two people, even if they are walking on the streets of Seoul, where handsome men and beautiful women are everywhere, they still stand out and sometimes attract the attention of passers-by. It's a shame that Shang Zhuoyan has to cover it up tightly, otherwise people will definitely be watching and taking pictures. Oh, yes, I forgot to mention that Shang Zhuoyan has become very popular in recent years. With the few albums Gu Huiyan wrote for her in recent years, she has not only become famous in Bangsa country, but is even famous in Europe and the United States, at an international level. The female idol is perfect. Even the domestic reputation began to reverse. During that time, when it was revealed that he had a child with Gu Huiyan took advantage of the situation and directed all the criticism to himself, portraying Shang Zhuoyan as a victim and lavishing public praise on the fan base. There she preached how difficult it was for her to be alone with her daughter abroad for so many years, how unfair what happened back then was, and how she was just a woman bruised by love. Recently, the focus of her work has also been to return to China. On the one hand, she has returned to her roots, and on the other hand, it is also because, well, the domestic market makes a lot of money and is easy to do. Looking at the entertainment industry around the world, income in Europe, America, and China is exploding. Of course, if you want to talk about dad taste, there is no entertainment industry in the world that can compare with the domestic one. In other words, our domestic celebrities are all dad-like and pretend to be like something. Yes, I will scold you, that's it. Shang Zhuoyan was too lazy to argue with Gu Huiyan. The big, watery eyes on the mask glared at Gu Huiyan angrily. Her white skin squeezed out wrinkles between her eyebrows. She left Gu Huiyan and walked into a cosmetics store not far away and muttered. One sentence. I don't even have half the patience for your daughter. After finally going out without his daughter, he always made himself angry with his arrogant words. It was strange that Shang Zhuoyan could not be angry. Hello. Gu Huiyan held his forehead silently and chased after him helplessly. Shang Zhuoyan was Shang Zhuoyan. He always had such a big temper and never spoiled anyone. When she caught up with Shang Zhuoyan, she was holding a shopping bag in a beauty store and stuffing it wildly. Although it was not the first time that she accompanied her to shopping, her face always trembled every time she saw Gu Huiyan. The Korean beauty industry is world famous, and all kinds of useful cosmetics are gathered here. Shang Zhuoyan once said that she likes the beauty stores here even more than her own home. For her, this place is simply paradise. When she grabbed a handful of 5 or 6 boxes of facial masks and threw them into the bag, she forgot all about what Gu Huiyan had done to make her angry just now. When he saw Gu Huiyan, he threw the bag into his hand and ran to the other side to grab the essence. Gu Huiyan looked helpless. In addition to playing the role of carrying a bag, he was also responsible for paying for the bill. This can be used by Auntie. Let me tell you this. During the Chinese New Year this year, Gu Huiyan plans to take Shang Zhuoyan and Gu Xiyan home. Gu's mother often talks about it. She may have traditional ideas and agrees that Pei Jingshu doesn't recognize Shang Zuoyan very much, but after all, she has given birth to Gu Huiyan, a daughter who has been abroad for so many years. When Gu Huiyan heard about this, he thought that Shang Zuoyan would find it troublesome or hesitant or something, but he didn't expect that she would be very happy and a little excited. She has been thinking about bringing a copy to her aunt after seeing everything recently. Maybe she doesn't look like the kind of girl who is well behaved and would be liked by her elders, but as long as she gets to know her a little bit, probably no elder will dislike her. When I returned to my country, it was the Chinese New Year, and it was also a time when the temperature was very low and very cold. Gu Huiyan heard that it was a mild winter this year, but in previous years the mountain winter was only 13 or 4 degrees below zero, but this year it was almost 20 degrees below zero. When she came out of the airport, Gu Xiyan was shivering from the cold, and Shang Zuoyan also said, "Why is it colder in China than Seoul?" She was quite devastated. She liked the beauty shops in Seoul very much, but she absolutely hated the winter in Seoul. The location of Sandong was further south than Seoul. She didn't check the weather forecast before coming and thought it would be warm. But she was shivering with cold as soon as she landed on the ground. Shang Zuoyan, who was shivering with cold, originally wanted to take advantage of the situation to seek Gu Huiyan's embrace, but when she turned around, it's okay, daddy hugs." Gu Huiyan had already picked up his precious daughter and wrapped half of Gu Xiyan's body in his long down jacket, fearing that she would get a little cold. Gu Huiyan is the standard daughter slave. In fact, men these days are basically daughter slaves. This is especially true when the daughter looks as delicate as Gu Xiyan, like a porcelain doll. Shang Zuoyan. She pouted her little mouth and stared at the father and daughter with a resentful look on her face. Shang Zuoyan was probably the only one whose daughter could be jealous. Gu Xiyan, who grew up in such an environment, seemed to be very considerate. She struggled in Gu Huiyan's arms, pulled off the other side of Gu Huiyan's clothes, and shouted to Shang Zuoyan in a sweet voice, "Mom is coming too." Pook. This sentence made Shang Zuoyan amused. She pursed her lips and rolled her eyes at Gu Huiyan and said, "My daughter is more discerning than you." Shang Zuoyan thought, Gu Xiyan didn't grow up with her father, otherwise she would not have such a high emotional intelligence. Gu Huiyan looked helpless. Elder brother. The person who came to pick them up was Gu Zun. Gu Zun is already a senior and is about to graduate this year. After all, he is Gu Huiyan's younger brother. He is surrounded by stars and is very cool. In the past 2 years, he also wants to be a star like his brother. Gu Huiyan, I tried my best to stop him, but my brother blocked me back by asking why you wanted to be a star in the first place. Helpless, Gu Huiyan had no choice but to use some of his connections with the company to pave the way for him. Hello, sister-in-law. Gu Zun has been a clever kid since he was a child. He talks about people and ghosts. When Gu Huiyan and Pei Jingshu broke up, he only recognized Pei Jingshu as his sister-in-law. He said all kinds of bad things about Shang Zuoyan. Today, the first time I met Shang Zuoyan, she was such a sweet-talking person that she directly called her sister-in-law. Shang Zuoyan was very happy and useful to hear it. In recent years, she rarely met friends with Gu Huiyan. She felt that they were always a bit shameful. It was rare to hear others call her this, and she felt very fresh and happy. So she rummaged through the things and handed Gu Zun a bag. Inside the bag was a limited edition men's leather bag, a luxury item and worth a lot of money. It is worth mentioning that the price of this leather bag is just over 10,000 yuan more than the watch Pei Jingshu bought for Gu Zun when she first went to Gu Huiyan's house. Not only the things bought for Gu Zun, but also the things bought for Gu's mother, clothes, cosmetics, health products, including some massage and skincare products, just the gifts are like moving. Maybe she never said it, but anyone with a discerning eye could see that she meant to compare with Pei Jingshu. And she really knows how to please her elders. She bought a lot of things. She remembered everything. She would introduce everything to Guma and give demonstrations in person. For example, she would put the cosmetics, essences, etc. on her white wrist. I tried it on Guma, and she was more professional than the specialist in the store. Gu's mother doesn't actually wear much makeup at her age. When Shang Zuoyan was shopping in Seoul, Gu Huiyan said that his mother didn't use these things very much. But women love beauty at any age. Just because they don't use it doesn't mean they don't like it, so these things are actually the things that are most dear to Ma Gu's heart, and she likes them very much. It is worth mentioning that Gu's mother did not have high expectations for Shang Zuoyan, at least not as high as when Gu Huiyan brought Pei Jingshu back. But Shang Zuoyan greatly exceeded her expectations. She was really lively and cute. Sometimes, Mother Gu couldn't help but understand her son a little. She thought, if she were Gu Huiyan, she wouldn't be able to help it either. He will be attracted to such a girl. What kind of boy would not like such a lively and cute girl? Of course, compared to Shang Zuoyan, Gu Xiyan is also very popular with Gu's mother. Gu's mother is not the type that favors boys over girls. In addition, Gu Xiyan has perfectly inherited Shang Zuoyan's Barbie doll-like appearance. She is simply she was such a living porcelain doll that when she got home, Gu got out of the car to buy her candies, let alone Gu's mother. He kept asking his granddaughter what she liked to eat and what she wanted to eat. I could cook anything for her. During lunch, Gu Xiyan was a little picky and refused to eat carrots. Gu Huiyan wanted to tell her about the benefits of eating carrots, but Gu's mother raised her hand and said, "The child can eat whatever he wants, you can take care of that." I was completely conquered by my granddaughter. Gu Huiyan was directly scolded into stupidity. Shang Zuoyan giggled beside her. Of course, Mother Gu just brought her some food. She really liked her. I'm serious, brother. After the meal, when Gu's mother held Gu Xiyan and listened to Shang Zuoyan's story about her granddaughter's childhood, Gu Zun ran to Gu Huiyan with a cup of tea, rubbed his hands and said, "I finally understand why my sister-in-law was so kind in the first place, and you can still do something like that." The sister-in-law he refers to is Pei Jingshu, no need to ask. When the incident between Gu Huiyan and Shang Zuoyan was exposed, basically everyone didn't understand how Gu Huiyan could do such a thing with such a good Pei Jingshu. Although Gu Ma and Gu Zun didn't blame him, they never understood him until today. And it wasn't until they met Shang Zuoyan and got to know Shang Zuoyan that they slowly understood Gu Huiyan. It would have been impossible for anyone else to be Gu Huiyan at that time and not be moved by Shang Zuoyan. She was definitely not the same type of girl as Pei Jingshu, but compared to Pei Jingshu, she's not bad at all. She was always worthy of Huiyan giving up his flourishing career because of her.